Picture this. There's a baby in the living room. She's a little unsteady, but she does that brave baby thing where she pulls herself up, takes 2 wobbly steps, and then boom, falls right back down. Now imagine this. Instead of everybody in the room smiling and clapping because, this is how human beings learn to walk and it's adorable, a tiny gremlin judge in a black robe pops up from behind the couch, slams a gavel on the coffee table and says, "Well, I've seen enough. The child is definitely not good enough for legs." Now, obviously that's insane, right? We would never do that. But the strange thing is, when it comes to writing, a whole lot of us have that same ridiculous little gremlin judge living in our heads. And the minute the draft gets hard or awkward or disappointing, he leans forward and says, "Maybe you're just not good enough." And oh, does that ever sound convincing. But here's what you need to know. This gremlin lies. But that's not the real problem. The problem is, you believe his lie. In this video, I want to show you why your brain presents this gremlin judge to you in the first place and how to dismiss his ridiculous verdict. So let's stay in this courtroom for a minute, because this little gremlin judge is apparently very busy. He doesn't just show up for babies. Let's say a few years later, there's a kid in the driveway with a bicycle that's a little too big for him. His knees are all bent at odd angles and he's trying so hard to stay upright. And he makes it about 6 feet, tips sideways and crashes into the grass. And before he can even get back up, here comes the gremlin judge again, robe flapping, gavel in hand, and says,
"Well, that settles it. This one is clearly not good enough for transportation."
Then he moves on to piano lessons. A student is halfway through a piece, doing pretty well until they hit that one part that they always miss. And the judge gives this long, disappointed sigh, like he's been personally inconvenienced, and says,
"Tragic. Not good enough for music."
Next, he marches into somebody's kitchen. A person pulls out their first tray of cookies, and they're a disaster. Burnt on the bottom, raw in the middle, each one shaped like a small weather event. And this gremlin, whom I should point out has never baked a thing in his life, squints at the pan and says,
"Let's be honest, you're just not good enough for treats."
So all this is ridiculous, right? We understand in every one of those situations that people are learning, they're trying, they're in the process of doing the thing, and they don't deserve to be judged not good enough in those moments. And yet, when it comes to writing, so many of us hear that exact same ruling in our heads, and worst of all, we treat it like it's the truth. See if this sounds familiar. Your draft gets complicated. The words don't flow the way you wanted them to. You read back what you wrote and you feel that awful little drop in your stomach. And instead of saying to yourself, "This part is hard," or "I need more practice," your inner gremlin judge pops up and says,
"Maybe you're just not good enough."
That statement draws you up short. You panic. Staring at your manuscript, you have a sudden urge to just dump it in the trash because you believe the gremlin. But the gremlin lies. It takes what from the outside looks like a normal struggle and turns it into a verdict on who you are and who you aren't. And the key thing I want you to see here is that this statement is not profound, it's not wise, it's not the voice of truth descending from the heavens to tell you the fate of your writing life. It's a ridiculous false accusation from a panicky little gremlin in your brain who has confused being in process with being disqualified. Now, if this gremlin were just some random thought floating through your head, that probably would be one thing that wouldn't bother you much. But there's a reason he shows up so fast, and there's a reason he sounds so convincing when he does. In fact, there are a few very real things your brain is doing in that moment that make this false verdict feel true. So before we talk about how to shut this gremlin down, I want to look at 4 reasons your brain produces him in the first place. And if you want something in front of you while we're going through this, I made a free worksheet for the video that will help you spot your gremlin judge's favorite lies and start answering them as we move along. I'll put the link for that in the description below. The first reason your brain produces this gremlin is something called negative bias, which you've probably heard about. But it's really important because it means your brain is not neutral. It does not sit there like some wise librarian calmly sorting out the facts. It's much more likely to notice what feels threatening, painful, embarrassing, or wrong than what feels encouraging, hopeful, or okay. Psychologists sometimes sum this up with the phrase, bad is stronger than good, which is a pretty good way to put it. Negative experiences tend to land with a lot more weight in our brains than positive ones do. It's just the way we're built. And what's interesting is this starts incredibly early in a human life. Research on babies have found that by around 5 to 7 months old, they start to show heightened attention to fearful faces over happy ones, which tells us something important. The brain is already learning to pay special attention to possible threats within 6 months of life. So when I say your brain is biased toward bad news, that's not your fault. It's just part of being human. Our brains are built to scan for trouble and danger. That's their priority. Now, if you bring that into writing, then you can see the problem pretty fast, right? You can write 5 decent paragraphs and then 1 clunky one, and guess which one your brain is going to fixate on? Or you can get 10 encouraging comments and 1 critical one, and guess which one follows you into the kitchen when you're trying to make dinner? You can make real progress in your draft for months, and then one day feel crushed because one scene fell apart. That is negative bias. Your brain doesn't go to the balanced interpretation, it goes directly to the worst one. So when your little gremlin judge pops up and says,
See, you're not good enough.
part of why that feels so true is that your brain is already primed to give more weight to the negative reading than the fair one. It's already leaning toward danger and toward what feels bad and toward the possibility that this rough patch means something terrible about you. And that's why this lie can feel so convincing, even when from the outside it's obviously ridiculous. The second reason your brain produces this gremlin judge is that it has a very bad habit of taking a difficult moment and turning it into an identity statement. And in other words, instead of saying, this scene isn't working, it says, I'm not a good writer. Instead of saying, this just needs more practice, it says, I'm just not good enough. That is a huge leap. But it happens so fast that we barely notice it. 1 rough paragraph becomes a statement about your talent. 1 difficult day of writing becomes a prediction about your future. This is where research on fixed mindset can help us. When people start to believe that their abilities are mostly fixed, meaning they were born with them, they're more likely to see any sort of struggle as proof that they just don't have what it takes. So when something goes wrong, the brain doesn't say, well, I'm still learning this. It says,
See, this is evidence I was never good enough in the first place.
that's almost exactly what the gremlin judge does. He takes a difficult moment and treats it like proof of everything from here on out. Other studies found the same thing. When people think they can't really grow or get better, that it's all about talent, they're more likely to see a setback and think, this proves I'm bad at this. And once they start thinking that way, they're more likely to shut down and stop trying, or feel like there's no point. This is one of the most painful parts of writing, because writing feels so personal. If you're learning tennis or gardening or how to make cookies that don't look like they were involved in a small explosion, it's easier to shrug and say, oh well, I'm still figuring this out. But writing doesn't feel casual like that. It comes from your mind and your imagination and your taste and your voice and your heart. So when it goes badly, it can feel like you went badly. Research on fixed beliefs echoes this too. When something is personally important, failure is much more likely to be interpreted as meaning something about who you are instead of just how developed your skills are. So this is the second thing I want you to see. The gremlin isn't just negative, he's sneaky. He takes a problem in the work and turns it into a problem in you. He takes something that should stay specific and manageable, like fixing dialogue or setting or structure, and he blows it up to be about your identity. That's why this thought of, I'm not good enough, can stop a writer cold. Because once the struggle becomes personal, it feels like you just can't do anything about it. But of course, that's false. How do you prove that to yourself? I'll show you in a minute. But first we have to talk more about why the brain does this to you. The third reason your brain makes this little gremlin judge is because it's trying to protect you. And I know that sounds really strange because this thought of I'm not good enough doesn't feel helpful at all. But the brain is not always smart in how it goes about this. Sometimes it thinks, if I can make her stop now, maybe I can save her from getting hurt later. So instead of helping you stay with the hard part, it tries to scare you away from it. And writing gives the brain a lot to worry about. You might fail. You might put something out there and then be humiliated humiliated or embarrassed, or you might work really hard and still not like what you wrote. Other people could judge it. So the brain starts acting like this is all very dangerous. And when the brain feels like it's in danger, it often pushes us to avoid that thing. Research on threat and avoidance shows that when people feel threatened, they're more likely to pull back and avoid whatever it is. So the gremlin judge steps in and says, "You're not good enough." Why? Because if you believe that, you might stop writing. And if you stop writing, your brain thinks that it's done its job. No more risk, no more embarrassment, no more scary uncertainty. You're welcome. Of course, this protection is false. It may protect you from discomfort for a little while, but it also keeps you from growing or from finishing or from learning and finding out what you're actually capable of. It keeps you small. The gremlin judge acts like a bodyguard, but he's a terrible one. He doesn't protect your future. He just tries to keep you from stepping into it. And the last reason your brain makes this gremlin in the first place is because the brain doesn't like uncertainty at all. It does not enjoy being in the middle of something difficult or messy or unfinished and unknown. And the writing is full of unknown things. You don't always know if the scene's going to work, if the story's going to work, if the draft is going to come together, if other people will like it, if it will sell. You don't even know some days if you like it. And that makes your brain really uncomfortable. Research on intolerance of uncertainty shows that some people react to uncertainty as if it is a real danger. They find it stressful and hard to deal with, and that can lead to more worry, fear, and shutting down. So why the gremlin? Well, he tries to turn uncertainty into certainty. He would rather hand you a harsh answer like you're not good enough because it feels definite than leave you in the middle of a question. This draft is still unfolding feels uncertain. I'm not good enough feels certain. It's painful, but it's solid, like a conclusion you decide and then move on. After trashing your manuscript, of course. And strange as all this sounds, the brain will sometimes grab a painful conclusion just to get out of the discomfort of not knowing. So this is the fourth thing I want you to see. The gremlin is not giving you truth. He's giving you a fake answer because your brain is uncomfortable. And this is where the whole thing gets even more unfair. Because this gremlin judge is not walking into your writing life with a reasonable set of expectations. He has this fantasy version of what a writer should be. And then he uses that made-up standard to tell you that you're failing. Let me tell you about this. According to this gremlin judge, a real writer should be naturally gifted, deeply original, emotionally strong, wildly disciplined, full of brilliant ideas, and able to handle criticism perfectly, and able to write beautiful sentences on command, and somehow never get discouraged, confused, tired, or stuck. No wonder so many writers end up feeling not good enough. If this is the standard sitting in the back of your mind, which it is for a lot of us, of course you're going to feel like you're not measuring up. Almost anybody would. And the strange thing is, most of us never stop to question this picture of what a writer's supposed to be. We just carry it around with us. We compare ourselves to it and we let it judge us. So when we have a hard day or write a weak scene or lose confidence in the middle of a story, it feels like proof that we're failing some test we're supposed to pass. But that test was rigged from the start because real writers aren't machines. They aren't endlessly confident, inspired, and skilled in every area all at once. Real writers get tangled up. They doubt themselves. They write things that don't work. They learn slowly in some areas and more quickly in others. But they're still writers. So part of what you have to do here is stop telling the gremlin to define the job. Because as long as he does, you'll keep feeling like you're failing when you're actually just doing the very normal, messy work of getting better. That brings us to the part of what really matters. What do you do when this gremlin judge leans forward and starts announcing his verdict? Let's talk about how to cope with this guy. So the first thing you have to do is stop treating the gremlin judge's voice like the truth. And that sounds really simple when you say it, but it's important and it can be hard in the moment. Because when the thought, "I'm not good enough," hits, most of us don't stop and examine it. We just absorb it. And then we start reacting to it like some wise authority has just handed down a final ruling on our future. But that's not what's happened. A scared part of your brain just threw out a dramatic sentence, that's all. So the first thing is to catch the thought and name it for what it is. You say, there's the gremlin again, or there's my brain trying to scare me out of this. Even that little shift helps because now you're creating some distance between you and the thought, which means you don't have to fall for it. Step number 2. The second thing is to make the gremlin judge get specific. Now this part is huge because "I'm not good enough" is vague on purpose. It sounds important, but it doesn't tell you what's wrong. So when that thought hits, you want to answer it with this question. Not good enough for what? Not good enough to write one bad scene and fix it tomorrow? Not good enough to learn structure? Not good enough to be in the middle of a messy draft? Usually once you force the gremlin to get specific, the whole thing starts falling apart. In other words, you can't let him sit there and say, "You're not good enough to be a writer," or "You're not good enough to finish this story." That's really vague. Not good enough to do what as a writer? Keep shrinking it down and ask this gremlin to be specific about what it's saying. Often when you do that, this grand truth that he's spouting about your identity turns out that it's just a small writing problem. Maybe the opening is weak, or the dialogue is stiff, or the middle is sagging. But those are writing problems. They can be worked on. They can be fixed. And realizing that robs the gremlin of his power. Number 3, the third thing you have to do is get clear on who gets to decide who you are. Because this is where the gremlin gets really dangerous. He doesn't just want to criticize a certain scene or complain about a book that maybe is sagging. He wants to tell you what your struggle means about you and your future. And he wants to turn a hard day into your identity. He wants to say,
See, this proves you're not a real writer. This proves you don't have what it takes. This proves you should stop and go, make cookies or something.
and that's where you have to push back. Because the gremlin doesn't get to decide that. He does not get to decide in the middle of one bad writing session who you are, or what your calling is, or whether you belong here. You decide that. You decide whether you're still a writer. You decide whether this book matters to you. You decide what one hard chapter means. So in that moment when the gremlin starts talking, one of the most powerful things you can do is answer him. You can say, "No, you don't get to tell me who I am." Or, "I'm a writer having a hard day. That's all this is." Or, "Yeah, this draft is struggling, but that's not the same thing as me being disqualified." And then it helps to show yourself some evidence. You're not trying to prove you're a genius here. You just want to find evidence that you are a real writer and you are capable of writing a good story. Where could you find this evidence? Well, you can look how often you've showed up to work on this book. You can look at other stories you've finished, other things that you've written. You could look at any positive comments that you've gotten from readers. Or you can just look at how much you care about finishing this book. Because when the gremlin starts talking, he acts like this one moment when you're feeling kind of icky is the whole story. He acts like today's messy pages cancel out everything else you've ever done. But of course they don't. That's ridiculous. You have a history. This is really important because it pulls your identity back out of the gremlin judge's hands and reminds you that just having a difficult day or struggling with the story is totally normal. It's how we learn how to write a story. Feeling unsure is part of the deal. It's not a definition on who you are. So you grab that evidence to remind yourself what's really true here. And then you can say this out loud because it helps. I am a writer. I'm learning. I have evidence for that. And you don't get to decide otherwise. So your mission of the week if you choose to accept it. This week, I want you to catch your gremlin in the act. The next time you're writing and that thought shows up, "I'm not good enough," don't just sit there and let it wash over you like it's the utmost truth. Stop for a minute and write that thought down. Get it out of your head and onto paper, or into a note on your phone or in the margin of your manuscript. Then right under it, answer these 4 questions. First, what actually happened right before this thought showed up? Did you read back a paragraph that you didn't like? Did you get overwhelmed because you're not sure what should happen next in this book? Be very specific about it. Second, what is the gremlin accusing you of? Write the charge exactly the way it sounds in your head. Maybe, "You're not a real writer," or "You don't know what you're doing." Third, what is the real writing problem here? Bring it back down to earth. Maybe the character motivation is fuzzy, or you need to go back and check your structure. Force yourself to name the actual problem instead of letting the gremlin keep it all foggy. And last, what is one piece of evidence that the gremlin is leaving out? Maybe you finished a chapter last week, or you've written through hard days before. Put that on the page too. And then after you do that, take one small action on your manuscript. Fix just one sentence, or rewrite one paragraph, or add one one note to the scene. The important thing is not to walk away right after the gremlin makes his verdict. Make him watch you keep going. That's how you start taking the gavel out of his hand. And if this video hit home for you, I made a worksheet to go with it so you can work through your own gremlin judge on paper instead of just trying to wrestle with him in your head. I'll link that for you in the description below. And if you want more help with this kind of thing, come join us in my community Writer's Brain Studio. That's where I help writers get out of self-doubt spirals, stop stalling out in the middle of drafts, and figure out what to do next so they can keep writing and actually finish their books. You can check that out at the link below as well. And if you feel like sticking around, I've got another video coming up on the end screen that'll help you face another monster in the writing life, the self-doubt monster. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.